there, friends. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I hope you are all well. We are taking a trip back to revisit a project I created about 2 years ago during the holiday season. Now, I really loved that project with flip pages and pockets, and I shared that mini with a spiral binding and an option to use rings. But for today, I wanted to create a version that you could bind into a smaller folio style. So that is what we're going to do. We've got partial pages, full-size pages, pocket pages here, lots of flips, plenty of room for your pictures and journaling. And so that is what we're going to make today. Now, if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we'll make it together. I'm going to work with the Let's Go Camping collection today from Echo Park, and I am obsessed with all of those plaids. I love the camper images and how bright and cheerful this is. Now, you may know that we are RVers and we love to take our camper down to the lake, and so this is right up my alley. This collection is so perfect for all of our summer adventures. I've got my base here all cut and ready to assemble. I just wanted to share with you one little tip that I have in that is to get some post-it notes in different colors. That way, if you have all of your pieces cut, you can number which ones you want to adhere together and keep the colors separate as well, so that as you're working along, if you lose track of what number you're on, you'll still know that these two oranges need to be glued together, and that way you can assemble your whole book and have all of the pages in the right order. So I'm going to use my 2 glue combo for this, and as I work along, I will be pulling the backing off of my paper tape, but I won't show that on camera. I'll just go ahead and edit that out so that we can keep the flow of this video working along a little better. So let me pull out here this center section, and then I'll tell you what the measurements are. I'm going to start with that cover, and it measures 6 inches high by 9.5 inches wide. I scored it at 4 and 4.5. So we're going to get a depth of 1/2 inch. That will give us the space we need for all of those layers that we want to add. So of course I want to add 1 and 2 together, and for this cover we're going to have different layers. So part of it is less wide, and then we'll be able to see some of the different patterns as we work along. Now, of course, I do want to use my 2 glue combo, so I've got my double-sided tape there, and then I'll use my Tombow as my wet adhesive. So I find it easier to fold up your page if you have a score line, and then you can work these right in together. That way you'll know that they will fold properly, and everything will line up very nicely that way. So here's our partial page for the cover, and then as I work along, you'll see I need to go and put my pinks together. Now I'm going to pull the backing off of these as I work along, just so that I can keep track of these layers, and I will edit that out so that you don't have to watch me pulling all of this tape off. Before I get too far, this piece was 6 inches high by 9 inches wide and scored at 4. So the next piece I'm going to add is 6 inches by 10 and scored at 5. So we'll have a combination of full size and partial pages. Still going with our 2 glues. So now we're going to move on to the right hand portion, and I'll just move that cover out of the way while we work along. So the next portion here is another 6 by 10 scored at 5, and you can see that I've got my numbers and my post-it note colors coordinating so that I can keep everything in order. Now we're back to the partial page, and this is going to be adhered here. And so I'll flip that over to reveal number 7 and 8. Okay, so 9 and 10 are going to join this separate section to the cover. So this will be the full base when I have this adhered. Since we have that double-sided tape, we can continue to work along while the tambo sets up. So that is our base all assembled. Now I want to start adding my pattern papers, and because we want to wait for that cover, let's just go ahead and flip to the first set of pages on the inside. Now I do want to use a combination of my patterns so that I can alternate, and I know that I have plaid on the outside, so I can use this fun camper print on the inside, and it will show from the front when the cover is closed. And so this piece is 5 7/8 high by 3 7/8 wide, and I'm just going to add that with my double-sided adhesive, and I'll get the nice border. So I'll just flip that over and add this side as well. So this page is going to be 5 7/8 high by 4 7/8 wide. And that will be our first set of pages inside, and you can see when we close that, it will reveal this pattern from the cover as well. So that's kind of fun. Now on this next set, I do want to include a pocket. So I have this cut to be 9 inches high by 6 inches wide. I scored it at a 1/2 inch, and then also at 5 1/2. And then I flipped it and scored it at 3. We're going to remove this top portion, and then what is left will become a flap to fold over and create our pocket. Now I found it much easier to cut this with a guillotine cutter so that you could just line that right up, but if you take your time and do a careful job, you can get this strip cut off easily, and then repeat that for the other side as well. I'll fold up that portion and then clip off the corner of this. Will help to remove a little bit of the bulk from that area and help it to fold flat. Before I seal that up though, I do want to add my pattern paper to the inside, and I've picked this fun pattern that looks like a craft color on the background, but it appears to have all these fun badges, and that is just going to be inside. Now you see when we seal this up, it will be inside that pocket, and I do want to add my double-sided tape here, and then fold that over. I'll put more double-sided tape around the outside, and then also my tambo. And then I'll bring my base back in and flip this over and fold that page up so that I can position it right in that score line so I know it will fold properly. So that is going to be our first pocket, and I do want to add the same pattern for this page for a nice consistent look. But if you're working through your stash and you have patterns that coordinate, then you go ahead and use that so that you can work through all of your papers. Now here is the offcut that I have from that camper, and it will also be the outside cover. I had just enough to cut for our pocket, and so this is going to be 2 7/8 high by 4 7/8 wide, and I'll just line that up here, and that will be a nice contrast to the busier pattern on the background. So now we have our first partial page and then our first pocket, and so I'll just continue to work along filling in with that combination of full and partial pages and pockets. So as I shared earlier, I did use that spiral binding for my original project, and as many of you OG crew know, that my Bind It All has been on life support for a while now, and I've been sort of on the fence about whether or not I was going to replace it, if I even wanted one at all, and maybe I wanted to switch to a different system. And I have found a cinch on Amazon that has some interchangeable cutting units that you can swap out, and so you would either get a spiral or you might get something that made the cut for little discs. And so I was just wondering if any of you have any experience with that cutting machine, or maybe you have a totally different one that I need to do some research on. So let me know in the comments, because I always really love to read your feedback. You get a lot of great advice from all of my peeps, so let me know what you are using and if you recommend it. So I'm just going to continue to work along here, and for this partial page I have the larger side glued to the cover, so I'll get a little bit of extra space in here to finish with my collection paper. So I'll add the 2 full-size pages, and then I have 2 partial pages. And I'm still continuing to alternate between those bigger, busier patterns and ones that are a little bit more compact and less contrasting, so that we don't get too busy of a look here. So now I have that done, and I want to just quickly add my pattern to the back. So remember that I picked that plaid, and that is going to coordinate with the front cover. Just get that put in place, and now we can work on the front. So of course I want to add some trim as a closure. Got pretty stitched satin for this. Got this from Really Reasonable Ribbon. Tack that in with a little tape, then sandwich that in between this pattern paper and the base. So this is more of that beautiful plaid. I think I might open this up so that I can get that longer edge closer to me, so that I can position this a little bit more easily. I'm gonna make sure to have those good borders. Okay, so now that we have only some of the cover to add those layerings to, I do have a layering pattern, just a little bit of the offcut, just add that, taking advantage of the border that I have already created there. So now, in order to fit all the things that I want to add, I need to shift this closer to the top. And so this is just a die cut doily cut from a crisp white cardstock, and it will fit fully on that 4-inch section, so none of it will be fragile and extending beyond that edge. So I did take one of those cut aparts and used a circle die to cut that so that it will fit nicely right inside my doily. And then I did pop that up on spacers to give myself a little bit of dimension. Now I do want to add some flowers, and these are lotus flowers from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I have taken off the top layer and switched out the stamens so that it would coordinate better with my project. Added a very nice die cut foliage here, loopy twine bows and netting, and you see that it just fits here along the bottom, so none of it will extend past those edges, and it will not cover up the words on that cut apart. So I'll just add this with hot glue. I'm going to come back in and make sure that I've got my leaves glued down so that the shape of them will fit in that contour. See, this one would be off the edge just a little bit. I want to make sure to protect them from getting damaged. I'm going to add a couple of little pine cone charms here to go with my camping theme, and I'll add that with hot glue as well. Cut the excess. Tap that with a button to hide the cut ends. Then I'll add a couple of sequins to balance those charms. I'm adding those with my Tombow. And because this collection had such cute cut apart images, I'm going to pick 2 of each of the 4x4 and the 3x4 sizes to add to each pocket. So let's just kind of distribute this color in the busy pattern so that I get a nice combination for each pocket. So let's add them here. Put the other set in as well. Now flip to the other pocket and add the image cut parts to that. So these will make great inserts for adding your pictures in your journaling. And then we'll close this up by tying a nice bow here. So that's going to be all for our project today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to check in the description for links. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.